Hello everyone, my name is Gurneet and today I will be analyzing the journal article The Business of International Business is Culture, which was published by famous Dutch psychologist Keith Hofstede. The article focuses on how different cultures affect management practices worldwide. In this slide, we can see a general overview of the concrete elements of the article. Hofstede has focused on the five dimensions of culture. Culture, as explained in the lectures by the professor, is a type of informal institution which is supported by the normative and cognitive pillars. This article also touches upon some of the challenges posed by cultural dilemmas to expatriate managers, which I would be looking to solve by giving some advice to the managers in the conclusive slide of the managerial implications. To start with, I would like to explain some important points regarding culture. By definition, culture means the collective programming of the mind which distinguishes the members of one category of people from another. Culture is a part of the informal rules of the game. It comes under the scope of informal institutions and is supported by the normative pillar of the institution-based view of international business, which basically means the mechanism through which norms and cultures in itself influence individual and firm behavior. The first line feature of this article highlights the five dimensions of culture. The first one being the degree of power distance. Power distance refers to inequality and unequal distributions of power between parties, whether it is within the workplace, family, organizations, or companies. For instance, because of the comparatively low power distance, employees in the United States frequently refer to their managers by their first name. Even though you can still be fired by this boss, you can call Megan or John. The distance seems closer than if you had to call them Mrs. Y or Dr. Z. The second dimension is individualism versus collectivism. In contrast to collectivism, which holds that an individual's identity is primarily dependent on that of his or her collective group, individualism refers to the viewpoint that a person's identity is fundamentally unique to them. For example, most dishes are presented family style in Chinese restaurants so that everyone can eat at the table. The majority of meals are individually styled served in American restaurants so that only the people who ordered them can eat them. Thirdly, masculinity versus femininity. Sex role distinction is discussed in relation to the masculinity versus femininity component. Men typically work in occupations that reward aggressiveness in traditional societies such as politics, military service, executive positions. Women, on the other hand, typically work outside the home in caring professions like teaching and nursing. Moving on, uncertainty avoidance, the degree to which individuals in various cultures accept confusing circumstances and tolerate uncertainty is referred to as uncertainty avoidance. People who live in high uncertainty avoidance societies such as Greece value job security and retirement benefits highly. They also have a propensity to oppose change which is inherently uncertain. Greater risk-taking and less reluctance to change are characteristics of low uncertainty avoidance cultures headed by Singapore. Lastly, orientation. Long-term thinking places a strong emphasis on patience and conserving for the future. Members of short-term orientation cultures, on the other hand, favor immediate pleasure and speedy outcomes. Moving on in the journal article, it says that the management methods vary from culture to culture within a country, and what works in one culture may not necessarily work in another. The very first example provided is of performance appraisal systems. According to Western management literature, if employees receive honest feedback on what their superior thinks of them, which may very well be the case in individualist societies, their performance will increase. Such direct input, however, violates the harmony that is supposed to guide interpersonal relations in collectivist nations. It might impair the employee's devotion to the company and irreparably harm his or her reputation. In an MBO system, supervisors and subordinates must agree on their respective goals. The system therefore presupposes a culture setting where disagreements may be resolved through discussion as opposed to rules, which calls for a medium to low power distance. Additionally, the higher the power distance, the higher is the chance of a failure of MBO. Next, the US is where this idea was created. It presupposes a poor environment for avoiding uncertainty, where unconventional strategy concepts, risk-taking strategy are favored. Although it is taught in nations with better uncertainty avoidance, safe players like Germany or France, its recommendations are rarely implemented there because in these cultures, senior managers are expected to remain actively involved in day-to-day operations. Lastly, this is the catch-all phrase describing a variety of methods used in various nations to make work more fascinating and rewarding for those who do it. In the USA, which is patriarchal society, job enrichment adding greater intrinsic value to individual tasks has been the dominant method of humanizing labor. In Sweden, which is feminine, the formation of semi-autonomous work groups in which members share tasks and assist one another has emerged as the dominant form. Moving on to the 6 organizational cultures stated in the article by Hofstede, we will first have a look on result-oriented cultures versus process-oriented cultures. Process-oriented cultures are dominated by technical and administrative procedures, whereas the latter are driven by a shared concern for results. People in process-oriented cultures believe they minimize risks and put up minimal effort in their work because every day is essentially the same. Results-driven individuals believe they are at ease in novel circumstances and every day presents a fresh challenge. Next, employee-oriented cultures take on a broad duty for the well-being of their members, unlike the job-oriented who merely take responsibility for the employee's job performance. Talking about the third type of culture, in the professional culture, the members who are typically well educated identify largely with their profession, whereas in parochial culture, they get their sense of self from the company they work for. Moving on to the closed and open system of organizational culture. A closed system culture holds that outsiders cannot affect the efficiency of the management or the workforce. An open system culture, on the other side, is distinct from other cultures since it acknowledges the impact of newcomers on employees' behavior. Moving on to the tightly versus loosely controlled culture. This aspect relates to the commonality of internal and external communication as well as the simplicity of admission for strangers and newcomers. Moving on, markets drive pragmatic cultures, while normative cultures see their role as enforcing a set of sacred laws toward the outside world. People from normative cultures place more value on organizational protocol compliance than they do on final product. Moving on to the concluding slide, which are the managerial implications. How to tackle the cultural challenge. Enhancing cultural intelligence, which is the capacity for understanding and assimilating different cultures, is essential. 3 stages are involved in developing cultural intelligence, and these are awareness, knowledge, and skills. Awareness is the ability to see the benefits and drawbacks of your mental software as well as the value of those from different cultures. Cross-cultural literacy, sometimes referred to as knowledge, is the capacity to recognize the symbols, rituals, and taboos of other cultures. Lastly, knowledge, awareness, and practice are the foundation for skills. Further on, being receptive to the customs and values of various cultures is the best approach to demonstrate to your teammates your respect and appreciation for them. This entails refraining from supporting or accepting a single culture at work. Your multicultural staff will understand that you respect and celebrate any holidays they observe this way. Even though cultural knowledge can be taught, immersion in a foreign culture completely is the best method to understand it. To perform well at a managerial level, even for gifted individuals, acquiring a new language and culture will require at least many months of full-time study. The majority of employers do not provide their expatriates that much training before sending them abroad. Because of this fact, most expatriates are not well prepared, which results in extremely high costs for businesses, people, and families. The next, managers must be aware of the global norms that are in place and how they are changing. Global conventions today are more ethically demanding and culturally sensitive than they were back in the day. This does not imply that all regional customs must be observed, but failing to recognize and adjust to the shifting social mores by sticking one's neck out in an insensitive and unethical manner may have disastrous effects. The greatest managers anticipate that standards will change over time by continuously interpreting modifications to the unwritten rules of the game and seizing new possibilities. It's important to strike a balance between taking cultural nuisances into account and using stereotypes to infer employees' conduct. Leaning on this argument will probably irritate the staff because it's not true that every choice employees will make is dictated by the fact that some colleague is from Japan or some are from France. Treat your co-workers as autonomous individuals since everyone is an independent thinker and individual regardless of cultural upbringing. Spend some more time getting to know each other and to avoid the stereotyping. Encourage your co-workers to do the same. And lastly, cultural imperialism is the recipe of self-destruction. No manager should ever think that their certain culture is better and superior when compared to others. Respect and empathy towards every single cultural element is imperative to succeed and achieve greatness in the managerial field. Thank you.